Hi guys, so today we're going to go over combining functions. So if you look at number one, you're given two functions, f of x and g of x. Combining them just means you're going to have a certain operation with them, meaning they could be divided, multiplied, added, subtracted. And I'm going to use f over g of x as an example. Um, so I'm just going to put this up here. So they're asking for f divided by g of x, which is the same thing as saying f of x over g of x. So just kind of noting that here. So given these two functions, I'm going to find f over g of x, which is just taking f of x, which is x plus 2, and dividing it by x squared plus 7x plus 10. When you see a quadratic, make sure to check if it can be factored. In this case, it can. Two numbers that multiply to be 10 and add up to be 7 are going to be 5 and 2. And make sure that you simplify your rational function. If you can factor it out, you can divide it out. X plus 2 over x plus 2 gives me 1. So this is 1 over x plus 5. This is what f over g of x equals to. Looking at the question though, it does ask for the y-intercept. So I've run out of room. I'm going to put this down here. F over g of x. The y-intercept, you'll recall, means that you're going to change x to 0. So I'm going to change the x to 0, which means I have, let me get rid of this parentheses, I have instead of 1 over x plus 5, I have 1 over 0 plus 5, which is just 1 over 5. And that's going to be the y-intercept of f over g of x. And then from here, we're going to do the same thing combining functions, but notice in this case you have f minus g of x, which is the same thing as saying f of x minus g of x. So f of x is 5 minus x. Make sure that anytime you have an expression, anything with plus or minus, you substitute it in parentheses. Minus g of x is x squared minus 2x plus 1. So always make sure that you substitute your expression in parentheses. The worst that can happen is there's nothing to distribute in front of the parentheses and you'll just remove the parentheses. But a lot of the times you will have something to distribute in front of the parentheses. So this would give me negative x squared plus 2x minus 1. All right, so from here I'm just going to combine like terms and write it in standard form, greatest exponent to smallest exponent. Negative x squared would be first. From here I have negative 1x plus 2x, which gives me positive 1x. You can put the 1 in front, but you usually won't see it that way. And then from here we have two constants. We have 5 minus 1, and that would give me plus 4. So this is f minus g of x. We have no more like terms to combine. This is where it stops. So if you'll notice here, this is the same thing as what we have in part B, except we replaced the x with 2. So we already found f minus g. It's right here. We're just going to now replace the x with 2. So given this function f minus g, which we already have, we're going to replace the x with 2. So remember, when you replace anything, it's going to be in parentheses. Also, notice that the square only belongs to the x. It does not belong to the negative as well. If it did, it would have a parentheses around it. But since it doesn't, it only belongs to usually the number or letter closest to it, which in this case would be x, which means I only square the 2, not the negative. And then PEMDAS comes into play. So I'm bringing this negative down. Exponents come first in PEMDAS. 2 squared gives me 4, plus 2 plus 4. And then PEMDAS states when it's just adding and subtracting, just go from left to right. So I have a negative 4 plus 2, which would give me negative 2. Negative 2 plus 4 which is just going to be 2. All right, and then moving on, if we have a total profit represented by a certain variable and the cost is represented by another variable, how many days will it take to start making money? Well, in order for money to be made, your profit would have to be subtracted with your costs first, or the cost would be subtracted from your profit first in order to see what you're actually making. So we're going to replace f of x with x squared plus 2x plus 1 minus x squared plus 15. And again, worst case scenario, nothing in front of the parentheses, so you don't have to distribute, just get rid of the parentheses. But most of the time, you'll distribute something. So this will give you negative x squared minus 15. And then from here, we're going to combine like terms. So the x squares actually add up to 0, so we can get rid of that. And then we end up with 2x because there is no like term for it. And then 1 minus 15 gives me negative 14. Now, how many days will it take for you to start making money? Well, let's see how many days it takes for me to just make it even. $0. Remember, f of x represents the amount of money made because x is always the independent variable, which correlates with time, in this case, days. So let's see how many days it takes for me to just break even, just for it to equal 0. I'm going to add 14 to both sides, and I will get 2x equals 14. Divide both sides by 2, and it will take me 7 days to break even. So as long as it's past 7 days, you will make money. All right, guys, I hope this helps.